Howdy, everyone. Welcome to This Old Vegan. My name is Merlene Vassal. I'm pleased to interview Jonathan Balcombe. He's a scientist, author, and speaker. I originally met him around 1998 when we both served on the board of directors of the Vegetarian Society of DC, which is now called the Veg Society of DC. As the author of a best-selling book, What a Fish Knows, I thought Jonathan would be the perfect person to talk to us about fish. So, Jonathan, welcome to This Old Vegan.
Thank you, Marlene. Great to be here.
And I know you're a biologist with a Ph.D. in ethology. I'm not sure how to pronounce it.
I think usually we say ethology, but I've heard both.
Okay, ethology. What is that, and what do you actually do?
Well, great to be here, Marlene. Nice to see you again. Ethologists focus on animal behavior, so generally observable aspects of what animals do in their days or nights. And so that's what it is. I did my graduate work in communication in bats, so how animals communicate is one aspect of their behavior. But as to what we do after graduate school, some ethologists do go into academia and teach classes in universities and do field research and the like. In my case, I parlayed my training in animal behavior into a career in animal protection. I worked for organizations like the Humane Society of the U.S., PETA, Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, organizations that try to improve the lot of animals in this anthropocentric world we're living in, the so-called Anthropocene. So there's a lot of work to be done in that field.
Excellent. I wish I could join you more. I mean, I try to work on that, but I don't do it professionally. It's great that there are people like you doing this work. All right, so here's my second question for you. I know you've written many articles and books about animals, including Pleasurable Kingdom, Second Nature, and my favorite title of all, Superfly. What is your book, What a Fish Knows, about?
What a Fish Knows is implied by the title. It's a survey of research and stories about fishes that contradicts the common assumptions we have. We've really given fish a raw deal. Or fishes collectively a raw deal. There's over 30,000 different kinds of species that we know, several thousand probably out in the waters that we haven't even described yet. And they are remarkable creatures. Collectively, they outnumber all the other groups of vertebrates, and as might be implied by that, they offer a cornucopia of remarkable cognitive, emotional, physical abilities. So in What a Fish Knows, my task that I set myself was to try to erase or at least undermine common assumptions that fishes are somehow more primitive and more simple, less sophisticated and complex than the other groups of vertebrates out there, the mammals, the birds. We also tend to demean reptiles and amphibians. This is a sort of class-oriented psyche and hierarchies and such. So I feel like I did a pretty decent job of synthesizing the research, which really collectively shows that fishes are full members of the vertebrate clan. When you look at what they can do, they have every right to be treated as equals among the vertebrates. Of course, the other vertebrates, the birds, the mammals, etc., we don't do a great job anyway. So there's a lot to be done in all of them. But you know, in our little discussion before we went live or went on the show, you mentioned pescatarianism. You know, pescatarians, people who, well-meaning people who are cutting out animals in their diet, but fish are still there. It's as if the fish is no longer never was classified as an animal. Of course they are. They're the vertebrates. They've got the same body systems, a nervous system, a reproductive system, an excretory system, a digestive system, a skeletal system, etc. that we have and other mammals and other vertebrates have. So So in terms of how they're built and what they can do, they're full members, and that's sort of the overarching goal of my book, What a Fish Knows, is to try to convince people of that they are completely deserving of our respect and consideration.
What are some of the things that people misunderstand about fishes?
One of the most common and widespread fallacies about fishes is this question about whether they feel pain. It's remarkable to me that the possibility that they don't feel pain is still entertained by some scientists still, although their numbers are dwindling. There's broad scientific consensus now that fishes are sentient, that they have feelings, that they have can feel pain, they have emotions, they have lives that matter, that they feel is really the sort of the phenomenon that aligns with sentience. So with regard to pain, there's been both anatomical studies that, for instance, that show that fishes have the three kinds of nociceptors, that is, receptors for toxic or noxious events, that we have. Nociceptors for physical pain, for chemical pain, and for heat pain. Those are three different kinds, and fishes have them. And what those receptors do is they send signals to the brain that the brain can respond to, typically to instruct the fish to move away from the source of pain, just as we do when we touch something hot or we something penetrates our skin. We'd want to avoid that. Pain is it's not a very pleasant thing, but it's very useful because it teaches us and guides us to learn to and then avoid painful events that may injure or kill us, events that will remove us from the gene pool. Then those genes are not going to be passed on to the next generation. So you can see how it's a phenomenon that is very adaptive and that it's subject to evolution by natural selection. Other studies of fish behavior show that they will avoid a painful stimulus. They will, I think more tellingly, they will travel to a part of their tank, and these are typically captive studies, where scientists have put a pain-relieving drug, Novocaine or lidocaine, for instance, which will relieve pain. And fishes who've been injected with an acid, say, something that's probably going to hurt for a while, will move over to that part of the tank that has the pain-relieving drug in it, whereas fish is injected with a saline solution, which is something that's not caustic and won't cause lasting pain. Don't bother to do that. Fishes are even willing to pay a cost to go to a part of their tank that has pain relief. For instance, it's brightly lit, it doesn't have anywhere to hide. Little fishes generally avoid that. But if they're feeling pain, they're willing to pay that cost and be less safe in return for getting the pain relief. So these are not necessarily fully ethical studies. We may question whether we should be doing studies like that. Nevertheless, they are, I think, quite compelling in demonstrating that these animals have physical feelings, as we should expect them to have, because again, they've got all of the physiological makeup that we have.
Do fish also feel pleasure? Do you think that they can have friendships, and do they have mates and so forth?
That's a good question, and the answer is emphatically yes. Fishes can feel pleasure. Touch is an example of where fishes actually use touch sometimes to communicate with each other. A good example is cleaner fishes who make a living by removing parasites from other fishes on the reef. That in itself is a fascinating part of their biology, and they're amazing little. They're small, but they do so many amazing things with their minds. They will. I think it's primarily to mollify, to soothe an annoyed client who they may have treated poorly in trying to remove a parasite. They might have actually bitten a bit of that mucus layer off on the outside, which is very useful and protective to the so-called client fish. That makes the client fish quite unhappy, and these cleaners will soothe them or try to mollify them by fluttering their pectoral fins against the body, presumably as a like a little massage to hopefully make them happy or make them feel better. This is not just a speculative thing, in the sense that it's known that cleaner fishes, cleaner wrasse as they're called, will do a better job of cleaning if there's a lot of other client fish waiting their turn to come in. It's a little bit like having a waiting room at the doctor's office or at the dentist, if you like. And in fact, they sometimes do clean stuff off the teeth of sharks and other larger fishes. So it's even more like going to the dentist. But anyway, fishes will use touch, and it's been shown in other studies that touch can, a gentle touch will be stress relieving for fishes. So it's a little bit like relieving stress by going to a massage specialist. It soothes them. It makes them less stressed, more relaxed. That's measured by stress hormones in the blood. So these studies tend to be a little bit invasive, some of these captive studies. Nevertheless, they're very telling. They reveal a great deal more about fish than we thought they had going on in our ignorant past.
What about relationships between fish of the same species? I know that, some fish travel in schools, but please share your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching the video, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.